Something has been shifting in you, and the most visible sign of it is this. You want to be around people less. Not all people. Not forever. But more than before, more than feels comfortable to admit, you are choosing your own company over theirs, canceling, going quiet, pulling inward in a way that feels both necessary and slightly alarming. That isn't antisocial behavior. That's evolution, and it started before you noticed it. If you've been wondering whether something is wrong with you for wanting less, hit like. This video was made for that question. Here is what everyone gets wrong about the pull inward. They treat it as a symptom of something that needs correcting, a sign of depression or burnout or some unresolved wound that is making social life feel harder than it should. And so they push against it, force themselves back into the social contract, schedule the plans, show up, perform the connection, and feel worse for it, not better. The effort costs more than it returns, and the confusion deepens because they are doing everything they were told to do, and it still isn't working. It isn't working because the withdrawal is not a problem. It is a mechanism, a biological, psychological, and spiritual mechanism that activates precisely when the organism needs to redirect its resources from the external world to the internal one. When the next stage of development requires energy that cannot be generated in public, only in private, only in quiet, only in the specific stillness of a life turned temporarily inward. Think of hibernation. A bear does not enter its winter den because something is wrong with it. It does not go inward because it has failed at being a bear in the open air. It goes inward because winter requires it, because the conditions outside are no longer the conditions in which the next version of its strength can be built. The den is not a retreat. It is a construction site. Everything that will make the animal stronger, more capable, more fully itself in the spring, all of it is built in the den. In the dark, in the quiet, in the absence of the world, Seneca wrote, retire into yourself as much as you can. Mix with those who are likely to improve you. Not with everyone. Not with the crowd that asks nothing of you and returns nothing real. With the specific few who challenge what you are becoming, and beyond them, with yourself, because the self has to be built before it can be brought back to the world. And building requires the right conditions. You cannot construct anything real in perpetual noise. Most people interpret the withdrawal as loss. They see the canceled plans, the unanswered messages, the preference for solitude, and they decide they are losing something: their social self, their connection, their place in the lives of people they love. But the withdrawal is not the loss of connection. It is the temporary redirection of the energy that was maintaining it towards something that has been waiting for that energy, towards something that can only be built now, in this season, in this specific inward turning. The evolution is not happening despite the withdrawal. It is happening because of it. The withdrawal is not a detour from the process. The withdrawal is the process. And here is where the real work begins. There are specific ways this evolution shows up, the exact daily signs that the process has begun. None of them look like growth from the outside. All of them are: the first is needing significantly more time alone to recover after being around people than you used to. What once felt energizing now feels depleting. Not because the people changed, not because you dislike them, but because the version of you that shows up in social space is now more different from the version of you that exists in private, and the distance between those two versions costs energy to maintain. The more you evolve privately, the more the gap widens. The more the gap widens, the more recovery the crossing requires. The exhaustion after social interaction is not a weakness. It is the tax of carrying an interior life that is outpacing what most of your social context can receive. The second is becoming more selective about who receives your real thoughts. You have two registers now, surface and depth, and you are discovering through a series of small disappointments that most conversational contexts can only hold the surface. So you navigate, you calibrate, you give the appropriate version of yourself to the appropriate room and save the real one for the rare conversations, or the journal, or the silence, where it won't be met with incomprehension or the particular discomfort of people who sense they are in the presence of something they cannot quite follow. This selectivity is not arrogance, it is discernment. It is the appropriate response to having developed a self that not every context can accommodate. The third is a new intolerance for shallow interaction that you used to move through easy. Small talk that once felt neutral now feels physically abrasive. Conversations that go nowhere, that circle the surface without ever touching anything real. They drain you in a way they didn't before. Not because you have become superior to them, because you have developed a hunger for depth that makes shallowness impossible to consume without noticing the absence of nutrition. Intolerance is hunger, and hunger is the evolution. The fourth is starting to protect your energy in ways that feel unfamiliar to the people around you. Saying no to things you would have once said yes to automatically. Setting a limit that surprises someone who didn't know you had one. Declining the invitation, skipping the event, ending the conversation earlier than expected, and feeling in the brief discomfort of the other person's confusion that you have done something slightly transgressive. You have simply begun to recognize that your energy is finite, that where it goes determines what gets built, and that the build requires choices the old version of you didn't make. The people who are confused by this are not wrong to be confused. They knew the version of you that hadn't made these choices yet. All four of these signs point to the same underlying truth. The self is undergoing a reorganization that requires different inputs, different boundaries, different uses of time and energy than the previous self required. This is not a malfunction. This is evolution in progress. But here's what no one tells you about what comes next. There is a fear underneath the withdrawal that you haven't said out loud. Not the fear of what others think of you for pulling back. You are past that, or nearly. The fear that goes deeper, that this is permanent, that the withdrawal is not a season but a direction, that the person you are becoming does not need people the way you used to need them, and that this means something has been lost, some essential human warmth, some capacity for connection that you will not get back. That fear is real. It deserves to be sat with, not dismissed, but it is also built on a misunderstanding. What is being lost is not your need for connection. What is being lost is your tolerance for connection that doesn't reach you. There is a significant difference. The person who emerges from this evolution does not need people less. They need people differently, more specifically, more selectively, with less patience for pretense and more hunger for genuine contact. That is not coldness. That is the most alive version of relatedness there is. The kind that can only exist between people who have stopped performing for each other. Seneca spent years in exile, stripped of the social world that had defined him. And he came back not less connected to humanity, but more precisely connected, able to distinguish with clarity he had not had before. The difference between company that fed the self and company that merely occupied it. The exile was not a punishment. It was a refinement. And what it refined was not the ability to be alone. It was the ability to be genuinely present with others, which requires first becoming genuinely present with yourself. Here is something to do right now. Think of one person in your life, just one, with whom the withdrawal does not apply, someone in whose presence you feel no gap between your public self and your private one. Notice the quality of that. Notice that it is not more than you are capable of. It is exactly what you are capable of when the conditions are right. That is not the exception to who you are becoming. That is a preview of who you are becoming with everyone who belongs in the next season of your life. This is when everything begins to shift. You came into this video looking for permission. Permission for the withdrawal to be real. Permission to stop treating your need for solitude as something to be overcome or apologized for. Permission to trust that what is happening inside the den, in the dark, in the quiet, in the absence of the noise, is not stagnation, but construction. Here it is. The withdrawal is real. It is necessary. It is not a failure of your social self. It is the season your next self requires, and it will last exactly as long as it needs to last. And then, not because you decided, but because the work inside the den will be finished, the pull outward will return. Not the same pull. A different one, cleaner, more intentional, less driven by the fear of being without others and more by the genuine desire to bring something real to them. Seneca wrote, "I never come back home with quite the same moral character I went out with. Something or other becomes unsettled. This is what happens in the den. Not the unsettling of character, the settling of it. The things that were loose, performing unexamined, they get examined, they get decided. And when you come back out of the inward season, you come out with something the crowd could not have given you. Certainty about who you are, not the performance of certainty. The actual thing, quiet, specific, and entirely yours. The hibernating animal does not emerge from the den apologizing for the winter. It emerges having used the winter correctly, stronger in the ways that matter, carrying none of the damage that the exposed animals carry from having stayed out in conditions they were not built to withstand. You did not fail at so you are using the winter correctly. And the spring that follows this particular winter is going to look like something you have not been able to picture from inside the withdrawal, because the version of you that will live in it does not yet fully exist. It is being built right now in the quiet, in the den, in the precise, necessary withdrawal that brought you to this video. The withdrawal is the sign. Evolution is real, and you are further along in it than you know. If this gave you permission for something you needed permission for, write in the comments, I'm in the den. Let's see how many of us are building in the quiet right now. If this channel is new to you, subscribe. Every video here is made for the season you are in right now. The next one goes one step further into what is being built inside the quiet. Don't come out of the den before the work is finished.